Now, for more on the strength of the anime industry and its future, let's bring in Dan Yer. He's the CEO of College Node. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Rochelle.
So walk us through, this is a very valuable industry. Walk us through what it's worth and where it's getting its money from.
Well, the industry in Japan alone worth about $20 billion, and that's actually not include the games that are associated with anime. So when we talk about the industry, we're talking mainly about the video, the merchandise that are being sold, and it's growing very quickly, especially overseas. So 20 years ago, if you look at it, it's mainly a niche market in the United States, in China, in which Japanese anime are sort of like a nerd trend, whereas now it's blast into the mainstream with Netflix, Amazon spending tons of money developing their proprietary content.
This certainly seems to be the time for the nerds, because I mean, if you look at the success of Marvel and DC movies, and there has also been some successes when it comes to Japanese anime. But what do you think really needs to propel it mainstream, or does it even need to be?
Well, I think it's already very much mainstream. If you look at Netflix, they have an entire section dedicated to anime with over 50 titles. This, is mainstream already. 20 years ago, the people who are watching anime, like myself, have grown up. And now we have disposable income, and we have a lot more money that can be put towards our hobbies. And the industry is growing as a result. And also, I think there's not the stigma anymore attached to watching anime. I would say in 1990, if you tell people you're watching anime, they typecast you into a nerd. Whereas now, it become a lot more acceptable.
Well, it was certainly good for all us nerds, including myself. Now, let's also look at some of the ways we've seen anime, at least Hollywood, try and interpret it on the big screen. And there has been this issue of whitewashing. If you look at movies like The Last Airbender and Ghost in the Shell, people are wondering, is that the reason why these movies don't succeed?
Well, if you look at the reason behind the whitewashing, Hollywood studios really have one goal in mind, and that is to make money. And they do whatever it takes to guarantee the success of the movie. So for example, in Ghost in the Shell, they cast Scarlett Johansson as the main character, who's supposed to be an Asian. I'm pretty sure they have done that because of her star power. They cast her because they think she can bring in fans to watch the movie. I know there are conspiracy theories that says Hollywood studios want to keep down the Asians, but that's not really true. They just want to make money. But I do see this changing in the last few years because now China has surpassed the United States as the largest movie market. And studios respond to what customers demand. And I think in the next few years, you will see some rapid changes, especially with the smashing success of Crazy Rich Asian that demonstrate that an Asian cast can bring in a successful box office.
Now, it's interesting because anime is very deeply rooted in Japanese culture, yet when you look at its reach and the sorts of audiences that are really interested in it, it goes clearly far beyond Japan. What do you think it is that gives it that broad appeal?
Well, a lot of the theme of love and oppression are universal. And also, if you look at it, we're living in an age of polarization of wealth. We're living in an age in which there are fewer opportunities for young people. And anime and video game really is as close to anesthesia as we can get. And a lot of people just want to escape into this magical world for a few hours and forget about the drudgery of their day. And I think that's something that people from any country can relate to.
Now, clearly, with this making so much money, there's usually a few big players kind of at the head of it all. Who are the big players?
So in China is Tencent and Baidu. And in the United States is Amazon and Netflix. These large internet companies that control the channel of distribution are increasingly investing and acquiring successful studios. So down the line, what you're going to see is probably 4 to 6 large players dominating this field and duke it out to see who can have the best creative content.
So is there a concern then, just quickly, if you're one of these, if you're a small anime creator and you're trying to make some money, but you have these huge heavyweights in the industry, does it leave enough room for the little guy?
There is also a separate movement of launching projects funded by fans. So these are platforms in which allow fans to pool money together to kickstart a project. So it's a fairly recent phenomenon, and it's very promising. So we want to wait a few years to see where it goes, because if that conduit is available, it can disrupt the monopolies of the large players. But it's too early to tell right now.
All right, very interesting. Always good to have you on. Dan Ye there, CEO of College Node.